Seven Deadly Sins, chapter 196. This chapter, man, it was really good between Meliodas and Elizabeth at the ending. Makes me really like this chapter. But first, in this chapter, we get a scene with Meliodas and his Seven Deadly Sins partners. We got freaking Merlin there, we have Bond there, and then we got Escanor there. And you see Bond looking up at Meliodas, and Meliodas kind of responds back to his normal way, the way he normally is. Talks to him in a friendly manner. They're like, oh, we should go get some drinks later. And Bond's like, oh, I'm glad you didn't kick the bucket. But they didn't show Bond's face there. And later on, Meliodas brings it up in the chapter. But first, I want to talk about Merlin. Man, Merlin has so much information on Meliodas. Not just like everything else with her and her encyclopedia mind. But she is always there when it comes to Meliodas and his power or his dilemma. She was the one involved with Meliodas' sealed power, and she's the one that knows so much information about Meliodas. I want to see a flashback with Merlin where it shows her seeing the transformation of Meliodas, because all this information she has, and I just wish she would speak up a little more. I'm like, woman, how do you know all this? And we know it's been built up. Merlin is being built up big time with her and her past. Everyone was afraid of what her real name. She knew a freaking language that no one else knew. So I'm expecting a Merlin flashback down the line. I want to see what this girl, what her past is, and what her goal is. Now, she explains what Meliodas' curse is. Every time he dies, the Demon King brings him back to life, and he loses his humanity and his emotions. And when that happens, there's a bigger chance of him going back to his evil ways, back when he was a feared demon, wreaking havoc around everywhere. And he had no emotions, had no care in the world. He was just an evil demon. And he was a powerful one at that. And everyone's kind of nervous about that. Even Escanor gets nervous about that. So, with the way she talks, it makes it seem like this has happened before. And it's as if Merlin has dealt with it personally when it came to Meliodas and him dying and him coming back more evil than evil, going back to his evil ways. So I hope we get a flashback of showing Merlin dealing with Meliodas, because it seems to me like this has happened before. With the next scene, you get a funeral with all the people who have died, who have gone down, who were killed at the hands of the demons. And you have Jericho, who is pissed off and is throwing rocks at Dreyfus. And I kind of feel bad for Dreyfus, because it seems to me right now, there are a lot of people who probably aren't going to be able to separate his face from the demon that had possessed him. And he takes the rocks, he takes the punishment. And I'm curious to go and learn more about the Dreyfus character and to see what he's all about, to see if he actually accepted the possession of a demon, and that's why he's more accepting of the punishment that is coming his way. And I feel bad for Dreyfus. I'm really interested. I think this is a good chance for the author to make a separate arc or a side arc of Dreyfus coming to terms with what he had caused or what was caused through his body. I hope we can see that. And I want to see him and his son and his family. And I hopefully we get that. I'm really interested in Dreyfus now more than ever, even more than when he was possessed by a demon. Because now we get to see some character development, character growth with him, to see if he can redeem himself. Into this chapter, this is where I really loved it, is that we see Meliodas is self-aware of what is happening. We have a nice scene, a beautiful scene with him and Elizabeth. He goes through the wreckage of his bar, he finds some beers, he finds some food, and him and Elizabeth decide to cook something up. It's a horrible food because he's not that good at cooking and it tastes awful. And we see Meliodas, and he's crying, but he's smiling at the same time. And he says that he is shitless, and he is fucking scared of who he might become, of reverting back to his old self. Now, the way he is crying, you think that, is this the first time this is happening to you? Or is it the fact that this hasn't happened in a long time? I'm pretty sure this hasn't happened in a long time, because if this is something new, then I'm not so sure if Merlin would be so knowledgeable about this event, about him coming back to life. And I really like how they're doing it, because you show the struggle in Meliodas. The struggle is real with him dealing with his other side, but yet he's still smiling. And I'm really liking this. I hope they handled this well with Meliodas' character, and I'm so interested in what all the damage that his old self might have caused. And we see Elizabeth, and she's hugging him, and she tells him, no matter what you do, I will always be there for you. I will always be by your side. And we end on her hugging him. Now, what I liked about it is that it might show, that ending panel probably showed some insight on what transformed Meliodas in the first place. Because if you remember, I remember a couple of chapters back, the Demon King mentioned, oh, if it weren't for that certain woman, you probably would still be a killer. You'd be the baddest of the rest of them. And it looks to me like that might be some insight on a future flashback on why Meliodas had transformed in the first place, why he had betrayed the demons in the first place, and I can't wait to see that. And I think that's just some foreshadowing on maybe Elizabeth's her past incarnations of her bringing Meliodas to the good side. And as far as this chapter goes, I'm really liking this arc right now that Meliodas has come back. At first, I wasn't a big fan of it when he came back, but we have this twist with him being evil-like, and we now know what his curse is. And I think it's being handled well with the execution on Meliodas possibly becoming evil. That's it for me, guys, in this review. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Really like this chapter. I need some more Merlin, man. Hopefully we get her. Fantard out.